The top 10 little-known events that shaped American history. Number 1. A Lord's Landfall. 3 years after the Virginia colony was founded, it failed. On June 7, 1610, dozens of starving settlers headed back to England. The next morning, they noticed a fleet approaching them with a new governor, Lord de la Warr, and a year's worth of supplies. If the colonists didn't run into him, Virginia may have become a lost colony. What is now the southeastern United States could have ended up in Dutch or French control. Number 2. The Tory Conspiracy. On June 21, 1776, several pro-British Americans were plotting to assassinate General Washington and recruit enough loyalists to take on the Yankee army. After 1 week, the plot was discovered, and all men a part of the conspiracy were put on trial. If their plot would have been successful, the British would have won the Revolutionary War. Number 3. Victory along the Hudson. On October 17, 1777, the British general surrendered at Saratoga, almost securing America's independence. Shortly after the news of the surrender reached Paris, the French king decided to enter the war on the American side. If the French alliance hadn't come at that moment, it's hard to say how much longer the United States troops would have held out. Number 4. State of Franklin versus North Carolina. After the Revolutionary War, a group of citizens from North Carolina decided they'd be better off living on their own rather as a part of North Carolina or as a territory of the federal government. They called their territory the state of Franklin, named in honor of Benjamin Franklin. They voted to secede from North Carolina, but Congress refused to let Franklin join the Union. The independent republic wrote its own constitution, made deals with Native American tribes, and attempted to make a treaty with Spain. After 4 years, North Carolina arrested the governor. Franklin gradually disappeared and became part of the newly formed state of Tennessee in 1796. Number 5. Mosquitoes win the West. In the spring of 1802, Napoleon sent an army to calm the rebellion of former slaves in Haiti. On April 19th, Napoleon received the news that most of his French army were dead of mosquito-borne yellow fever. Napoleon had realized his reconquest had failed and gave up hope of a new world empire, so he decided to sell the Louisiana Territory to the United States. Number 6. The Free State of Van Zandt. Van Zandt County in East Texas was once called the Free State of Van Zandt, which was once in conflict with the United States. After the Civil War, federal troops were stationed in many Texas towns. The citizens of Van Zandt were fed up with the martial law, so they voted to secede from the United States. U.S. Army soldiers were sent to put down the uprising. The U.S. soldiers were able to easily stop the uprising because the Van Zandt Army started celebrating their freedom a little too early. The U.S. soldiers were able to stop the uprising, and seceding was no longer an option. Number 7. The Wobbly Chair. On February 15, 1933, an anarchist was only 25 feet away from Roosevelt and was planning to assassinate him. Luckily, the gunman lost his balance atop of a wobbly chair and ended up fatally wounding the mayor of Chicago, who was shaking hands with Roosevelt. If Roosevelt had been assassinated, the New Deal and move toward internationalism would have never happened. Number 8. The Einstein-Shallard Letter. On August 2, 1939, the Einstein-Shallard letter signed by Albert Einstein was sent to President Franklin Roosevelt. The letter suggested that the U.S. should begin research because of the destructive power of atomic bombs. Einstein, Shallard, Teller, and Wigner were among a number of concerned scientists who feared Nazi Germany would develop the atomic weapon first. Number 9. Claudette Colvin. On March 22, 1955, Claudette Colvin, a 15-year-old African-American, was arrested for refusing to give up her seat on a Montgomery, Alabama bus. Local and national civil rights leaders rallied to her cause. Shortly after her arrest, she became pregnant. The movement's leaders decided that an unwed teenage mother would not make a suitable symbol, so they pursued a legal case with another volunteer, Rosa Parks. Number 10. The Norwegian Rocket Incident. On January 25, 1995, a team of Norwegian and American scientists launched a 4-stage sounding rocket which carried scientific equipment to study the aurora borealis. During its flight, the rocket reached an altitude of 903 miles, resembling a U.S. Navy submarine-launched Trident missile. Because of this, Russian nuclear forces were put on high alert, and the Russian president had to decide whether to launch a nuclear barrage against the United States. If Russia had decided to launch the nuclear weapons, a nuclear war would have started.